Ryan bought the farm.
Moving forward with the Dekker Team. Moving forward together with the Dekker Team.
So we're excited that for over 30 years, not just have we been able to come alongside you selling, buying, and investing in real estate, we've been able to come alongside you over 3,117 times doing that, but also coming alongside you to build your faith, build your fun, build your finances, build even your fitness, and build your wealth. And so we're excited that we get to do this thing together. So what we're going to discover today is that when you're buying a farm, even if it's not a rabbit farm, there are way more hoops to hop through than with other types of real estate. Mm-hmm. So Kelly, we got you here still. We're going to get the inside scoop on buying a farm, because so many of our clients now, especially since this whole COVID where people are working from home part-time and the commute isn't as frequent for many people, or maybe it's a hybrid type of situation, hobby farms are all the craze. So talk to me about hobby farm, and then we'll move into talking about actual farm.
So it's definitely, people want land. They want space. Sometimes people want the ability to make extra income with the property that they've got. And it's a little bit more difficult to finance a hobby farm, something with excess acreage, or something that has additional buildings on it that you see worth a lot of money, right? If they have a huge big barn on it, for you to go build that barn might cost you $150,000. But if you can buy it with the property, then typically you're going to get it at a much more reduced value. So when a bank is looking at doing an appraisal on a property, they're not interested in the outbuildings. They're not interested in the excess acreage. They're not interested in the hobby farm potential of making income from animals or hay or anything else that might be on the property. So it's really important that when you're working with your mortgage broker, that we look at the MLS prior to doing anything, to look at anything that might pop up and explain to you how that appraisal is going to work when looking at how much the bank will actually lend you on that property.
Right. So having, I think what you're saying, excess land, I first want you to qualify or quantify, what does excess land mean? Because if I want 20 acres and it has 20 acres, that doesn't feel like excess land to me. That just feels like the amount of acreage I want. Yeah. But the bank is looking at the house and how many acres?
So some banks are 5 acres, some banks are 10 acres, some have a little bit more leniency, maybe 15, but that is the maximum amount.
Right.
So,
and some are even 2, aren't they?
No,
everything's now at 5.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know in the past I've been stuck sometimes where I had to do a separate value for like an acre and a half on an estate lot, and it's like, what? Right, but generally speaking, we're safe with up to 5.
Yeah, we're safe with up to 5, and the appraiser will take, okay, what is the extra acre? What is every extra acre worth above and beyond that? And they'll take that typically off whatever that value is.
Right. So Ryan did just buy a hobby farm, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And so I think what he needed to know in advance, he needed a lot more down payment, because he needed to be able to cover that the appraisal wasn't going to come in even at the purchase price, even though he thinks he did well on the purchase. The appraisal didn't come in anywhere near what he paid for it.
Right.
And that doesn't mean it isn't worth it.
No, not at all.
It just means you're not getting financing for it.
Right.
So I think that's a really important thing to keep in the back of your mind as we talk about even investment properties, and as we have chatted about those, and when we talk about farms and other types of properties, just because the appraisal doesn't come in doesn't actually mean it's not worth it. It just means the bank isn't willing to lend on it.
Correct. And so they'll reduce the overall purchase price to the amount that they deem the property is valued at, just using the house with the set amount acreage. So
without value of the outbuildings.
No outbuildings, no nothing. So if you have a garage, that's definitely going to add some value. But if it's, $150,000 garage because, it's 100 feet by, 50, you're not going to get that type of value on it. So with Ryan, the buildings were a big deal for him.
Yeah.
The acreage was a big deal. That's what he was looking for. So if you're buying a property with 5% down, there's going to be way less wiggle room for you to play with that purchase price, right? Because
they're next to them. You're not going to be able to buy. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
You're not buying it unless somebody wants to give you extra money. It's not a 5% down purchase.
No, definitely not. Unless you can figure out how to put all that value into 5 or 10 acres.
It doesn't really work.
No, because people want value for their acreage and their buildings, right?
Right. People aren't willing to sell it at a reduction just because you don't have cash.
Right. And the banks are also looking for things too in purchase agreements. Are you trying to sell the tractor with that? Are you trying to sell some of the animals that may be currently on the property? They don't want to finance any of that either, right? So
none of it.
So inclusions are really important when we're looking at the purchase agreement, the MLS listing, and whatever access that you think you're paying for. And the banks really just don't want any property that you're going to be earning your income from, because they don't want to be taking away. If they ever have to take the property back, they don't want to take someone's ability to pay their bills as well. So I remember years and years ago, the bank had said, if there's a chicken and it laid an egg and you made $1 off it, we don't want it.
So we don't want to finance it.
We don't want to finance it.
Right. So that now we're talking more working farms, right? So we want to be careful in a case of a hobby farm that we're not showing income.
Right.
That we're not making it a business transaction.
Right.
Because now we've got income tied to property, and now that creates chaos.
Right.
For the institution, for the financial institutions, and it's a business.
Yeah.
So now if it's a working farm and it is a business, how do you finance that?
So that's when you would go to somebody like Farm Credit, and that's their whole specialty, is looking at the type of land, the type of income, the financials of the property. It's a whole other, we don't do anything.
You don't touch that, and you don't even introduce that out. So if you're thinking hobby farm, call Kelly. If you're thinking anything else or hobby farm, still send us an email at together@deckerteam.com with the subject line together, because you're just saying we want to stay connected. We want to move forward together. And so that's a great way for us to continue to give you access to information, new programs that we're doing, workshops that we're holding. All of that you'll have access to, because on these Life's Inside Track, we can't cover it all, right? Because there's still so much more to say about even the topic of hobby farms.
Yeah, even something like a simple appraiser. Are you getting a city appraiser to go in versus somebody who does these types of properties on the regular basis? So knowing which lender to go to in order to make sure that you have the ability to use somebody that knows this stuff inside and out is a big deal. We've seen big differences in purchase prices to the banks because somebody wasn't familiar with that type of property and they're coming from the wrong place.
Absolutely.
Or area.
Right. They just don't even understand what we're talking about. So I think what I'm saying to you is, even if you're just thinking about whether it's a hobby farm or any type of property, you do want to call Kelly and you do want to connect with me so we can make sure we can get you connected so you can explore your options. Because we know that when we have options and they're clarified, we're going to make wise choices. So we are grateful that we get to be your advocates, and we are actually quite honored to be your advocates on the journey of life exponential and building wealth.
Moving forward with the Dekker Team. Moving forward together with the Dekker Team.